Hello everyone and welcome back. It's Joshua again. What I'd like to talk about today is hate. In light of the recent tragedy in France, I realized that what we need to do is start understanding what hate is and what we can do with it. Hate is very often described as the opposite of love. I like to point out that hate and love are actually much more similar than we give them credit for. In love, what we're wanting to do is to nourish and help grow the relationship that we have with something or someone. In hate, there actually still is a relationship. But what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to nullify or kill that relationship. If you want to really think about it, the opposite of love is nothingness. We can't love or hate that which we have no connection with and no experience with. So keeping in mind that love and hate are much more similar than we've given them credit for, I want to go more deeply into what hate looks like from my end. Hate to me seems like a combination of fear and ignorance. In ignorance, what I'm talking about here is a lack of experience. Very often, if there's something that we do not understand or have not had experience with, and also believe is dangerous to us, to our sense of self, to our own physical well-being, that's what can lead to hate. Now, the terroristic attacks that we've witnessed over the globe in the past few years are examples of what I call active macro-level hate. Sexism, racism, bigotry. These are forms of hate that very oftentimes are very easy to point out and identify. And I would argue that most rational people would say they have no part in and no connection with. What we must learn to do is connect with what I'd call a micro-level hate. That's the form of hate that we create within our own selves first. To get started, what we must first look at is how we have relationships with those various aspects of ourselves. Now, this can be a bit confusing, so I encourage you to use the 5 categories I talked about in my video, The 5 Pillars of Health. The categories are physical health, emotional health, mental health, interpersonal health, and creative spiritual health. If we use these 5 categories, it'll help us kind of narrow down the relationships we have with ourselves and other people in this world. Now, very oftentimes, hate is seen as an experience between one person and another person. And that's the kind of hate that I talk about when I talk about active macro-level hate. It's stuff that you can point to, identify as violent or rude or wrong, and not want to be any part of it. What I want to highlight in this video is what I would call micro-level hate. That's the hate that we create within our own selves. So going back to those 5 pillars, what I really want to highlight here is specifically our experience with our thoughts and our emotions. From my experience, most people have an emotion or a set of emotions in which they actively work on not feeling. So what happens is in that process of denial and avoidance, trying to push away that emotion, we create ignorance. We're creating ignorance because we are not allowing ourselves to understand and experience what that emotion is telling us. And also, when we do this, there's some part of it, either consciously or unconsciously, that's saying that that emotion is in fact dangerous. So notice what I've done here. I've already stated then that ignorance and fear of danger, is hate. Most of us have some form of hate that is experienced emotionally and oftentimes in body image and the physical aspect of ourselves. The other aspect that we keep avoiding is recognizing the relationship our thoughts have to our emotions. When we disown our emotions and don't experience them, we do not give ourselves access to the very thoughts that created the emotions to begin with. So what's going on then is we're hating the emotional experience, and very likely we're hating ourselves or the belief system that created it, but we don't know it was created from that thought. And in fact, very oftentimes we believe that it came from the outside. And then what happens is that macro level of hate starts being experienced, and we point to a particular subset of people, a certain lifestyle, a certain belief system, and say, I hate that. What we've done, we've completely disowned access to understanding how we've created that in ourselves first. In order to start uncovering our own micro level hate, we have to start looking at how we do not nourish and grow aspects of ourselves. Now, I want to be clear here. When I say nourish and grow in the form of that being an expression of love, I don't necessarily mean to agree with. What I'm saying here with nourishment and growing is with our awareness. In awareness and curiosity, we love the relationship we already have with ourself, emotionally, with ourself, physically, and with our thoughts, and then also in relationship to others. Inside this awareness, when we bring up consciously that relationship, we then can ascertain whether or not that relationship is serving our highest purpose. It's pretty obvious that suicide bombings don't serve the highest purpose. Likewise, hating yourself for feeling a certain thing or thinking a certain thought is equally damaging. It's damaging because in that micro level hate, we disown that aspect of ourselves and are then completely unable to connect with that aspect in someone else. An overarching spiritual tenet is to create connection. It's really to see that all is one. What that phrase really means is have us recognizing that we have a relationship with everything that is in our awareness and everything that we buried from our awareness. So with those major emotions that we have, sadness and guilt and happiness even, we have a relationship with those emotions, whether we are consciously aware of them or not. We also have a relationship with the thoughts that spawn them, whether we're aware of them or not. Hate is bred in a place of, well, I've said ignorance, but what I mean to say is non-awareness, a refusal to see and experience what already exists. We already are connected to everything. It is our job then to see how that connection impacts our life. In thinking about what I wanted to say in this video, I was thinking about the golden rule. To remind you, it's do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I realized that this phrase, this notion, this concept couldn't possibly be localized in one religion. And sure enough, my research dug up 21 or 22 major religions that have this exact same message in them. It's also included in Islam. And I want to read. No one of you truly believes until he wishes for his brother what he wishes for himself. That is an Islamic tenet. But notice it's also a Christian tenet, a Jewish tenet, a Buddhist tenet, and so on and so forth. The golden rule is the hallmark of every religious and spiritual aspect of being, which is to honor the relationship, to ascertain what it's trying to do for you, and to see how you can make it serve your best interest as well as others. When we refuse to look at these relationships, when we pretend like they don't exist, that's where hate gets bred. I want to end this brief video with a quote from the Talmud. What is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow man. This is the law. Everything else is commentary. Take care.